You are listening to PT on Ice, The Older Adult, a collaboration between the Senior Rehab Project and the Institute of Clinical Excellence. This is a rebroadcast of an original episode that can be found at ptonice.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Jerry PT version of PT on Ice. Christina Previtt here. I am one of the 2 faculty members for the Modern Management of the Older Adult course. We just finished our 3rd cohort of the online version of our MMOA course. And when we finish the course, I always love finishing with something positive. So we talk about our wins, our really positive experiences, things that for us have given us a lot of energy because we have seen the improvement that we can make in some of our older clients' lives, in their quality of life, in their level of independence, in their relationships with their significant others or families. And I really believe that highlighting some of these wins can make a huge difference. And it is one of the reasons why I fell in love with Jerry PT. Dustin and I have talked in previous episodes that we know that sometimes geriatrics cannot seem like the sexiest area of PT practice, but I truly believe that it is the one that makes my heart the biggest and makes me super fulfilled in my job. And today I wanted to give you some examples of why that is. We talk a lot on the PT on Ice podcast about our communication and ageist sentiments, and how we don't want to assume that because a person has a certain date of birth that they're going to be incapable of doing certain things. We talk about, having people show their functionality first before we make snap judgments on their ability levels based on their age. And so one of the biggest wins for me when I started going into Jerry PT and when I started my PhD was that I became very conscientious of my communication. And so I was doing a randomized control trial. And so I was working with people who were at risk for developing frailty and applying an exercise intervention that was 12 weeks long. So I got a really great opportunity to talk to a lot of older adults who were kind of between the ages of, I would say, 70 and 90. And one day I was talking with one of my clients. We were joking around. And she stopped me and she said, Christina, you're a breath of fresh air. And I was kind of confused by that. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said to me, you have no idea how much people will look at me and not listen to me. They will automatically make assumptions about what I'm capable of doing and my level of cognition before they talk to me. And for a background story, this woman, she was about to turn 80. She had been a professor. She was very smart, very intelligent. She said that just the week before, she had gone into it was like a furniture store, and she was looking to buy a whole new suite for her condo. And the person there called her hun, didn't really listen to her. And she's like, I turned around because I didn't feel like somebody was actually listening to me. And so that was a big eureka moment for me because it made me very conscientious of the way that I'm communicating with my older clients about how empowered I can make my older clients feel by making our conversations and our interactions be about a partnership and not necessarily assuming that I am the one who is dictating what is happening. I'm listening to them and having a conversation as if I was having a conversation with my 30-year-old client. My method of communication doesn't change. Obviously, if somebody wants me to call them Mrs. So-and-so, that may be the only difference, but I usually get corrected and we're on a first name basis, just out of respect. But the big win for me was how empowered and confident I could make my clients feel just based on my communication. So that was number 1. That was a huge win for me and I loved it. Loved it. So it changed my practice. It definitely made me a better practitioner and something that I think about. My second win, and the reason why I am in this world in general, is my client, Anna. And I talk about her a lot because she really did change my life. and we still have a relationship now. So she was a client of mine that was 64 years old, had worked all her life in retail. So she was doing a lot of standing on concrete floors, really tough on the knees. And she had degenerative meniscus issues and some arthritis going on bilaterally, with her right being worse than her left. And she had gotten to the point where she wasn't able to walk around with her family. She has 4 kids. She was in a wheelchair because the pain was so severe in her knees. She couldn't do the things that she loved to do. She couldn't go shopping with her daughter. She was so young, but she was having a lot of trouble. And so we applied a lot of the interventions that we talk about in the Modern Management course, where I took a very strength and conditioning approach. So she had cortisone done in her knees, and she had the injection, and then the surgeon who did the injection said, go get physio. And so we slowly started to build the bike. Jeff talks about this a lot. I see that he's watching. We gave her those little wins. She thought that she was incapable of doing anything active because her knees were so sore. So we did a full day of exercise that was working on some of the muscles around the knees, but in a way that didn't flare her knees up. I got buy-in very quickly. And then we gradually started to build more and more capacity for her. So we started getting her doing high squats, and then she was deadlifting, and she was slowly but surely, she was getting more and more movement. And after 8 months, she got 1 more cortisone shot, and then it's been years now, and she hasn't. And for her, I'm going to try not to cry as I talk about these. So for her, she's been in a CrossFit gym now in the Boomers program that I started for almost 4 years. And she's competed in 3 CrossFit Opens. She has some professional photos of her lifting a bar over her head. She is dancing again. She is going back, and she is a breast cancer survivor and is doing the CIBC Run for the Cure. And all of these things gave her her life back. She was thinking that this was going to be her new normal, that she was going to be stuck in a wheelchair anytime she had to walk around an airport or a mall or for any significant amount of time in the community. And now she's running, and she is complaining about workouts just like anybody else would complain about workouts, including myself. If I was in a CrossFit gym, she's doing conditioning. Her husband is now doing this with her. So imagine the strength of that relationship that has grown as they compare. Oh, well, you deadlifted 205 today, which he is 74 and deadlifted 205 for 3. She can deadlift 155 pounds now. So from a wheelchair to deadlifting 155 pounds and still continuing to have strength improvements, even though she's getting older, and we would potentially have that bias that the strength gains would stop. She's still continuing to improve, and motor patterning and quality is improving, and she's just doing better all the time, which is amazing. And so that for me made me go into my PhD, because I saw that this high intensity, which is relative, right? Her high intensity is going to be different from my high intensity. This high intensity training was beneficial. And so it was something that I loved, and I started, and is kind of the concept behind Stave Off. And now I just get to see these wins all the time. And so that was my win number 2. And so she is someone that I still have a relationship with. So win number 3 was I had a client of mine who, she also watches this podcast. I don't know if she'll figure out that I'm talking about her. She started with me one-on-one, and she had a previous knee replacement and was on a couple of different medications for different health issues. And again, we started working one-on-one. We started building the bike, building her capacity. She was having trouble getting on and off the floor. She wanted to play with her grandkids, but was having trouble. And she liked doing things around the house, like gardening, and wasn't able to do that. So we started slowly building her capacity. Because what we know about aging is that usually with all these chronic conditions, it's a reserve and efficiency issue. So because some of our systems are starting to break down, we just don't have the same functional reserve and redundancy in our systems. Whatever that system may be, cardiovascular, muscular, like anything strength, cognitive, it's that reserve that is decreasing. So we need to build that reserve. We need to build that bucket. And so we started doing that with her one-on-one. And then she transitioned into one of our group classes. Now there's the social aspect. She is super positive every time she comes in. She's making huge improvements. She had gone from being unable to, pick up a 10-pound weight to she is deadlifting 115 pounds now. But her big win, and this just happened this week, she's been with us now for about a year, and she had lost 30 pounds, strength in her legs is a lot better. She's doing more things. And what's been happening is that her blood pressure also has been going down. So about 6 months ago, she had dropped her blood pressure medications in half because she was starting to her blood pressure was going too low, because now she was having these medications to try and correct her blood pressure, but she was being so active, and we were talking a little bit about nutrition, and she was doing so well from a healthy lifestyle perspective that she didn't need the medications. Well, she told me last week that this is the first time that she thinks she's going to be off her blood pressure medication completely in 25 years. And so I'm definitely going to tear up, but imagine that. Like, you have been on a medication to control your blood pressure for 25 years. And now in her mid-60s, she has taken on more and more healthy lifestyle factors, and she doesn't need them anymore. She doesn't need them because she is using nutrition. She is using activity. She's getting enough sleep. She is managing stress, and she doesn't need her blood pressure medications anymore. So now her body is feeling stronger. Her joints are feeling better, and she is no longer needing medications that have side effects to control her blood pressure, because she is doing that on her own. Imagine how empowering that is to not need any of those medications anymore. And for you to go to your doctor and your doctor to say, you're doing amazing, and whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because you're going to be able to have this healthy life for decades and decades to come, even though, you thought that you were going to be on these medications forever. So I thought that was really cool. All right, I'm going to talk about one more win, and I can give a ton of examples, and I want you to give me examples, because these types of stories just show how cool it is to work with older adults when you can give someone their life back. So I have one other client that I've seen her 3 times. So some of my clients I get to see because we have the gym long term and see these changes accumulate over time, which I am very lucky to have that opportunity. But this is somebody that I only saw 3 or 4 times. So she had arthritis in her knees. She was actually in the Canadian system, there's more of a wait list to get a joint replacement. So she had been on the wait list for about 8 months. She finally had a surgical date for it was yesterday, so beginning of August. But because she was waiting, her idea was that she was just going to decline until the surgery happened. So she had gone from walking a mile a day to not being able to walk from the parking lot to the grocery store, walk around the grocery store and come back. She was saying if she was to do go for groceries, she would be in bed with a swollen knee up for the next day or 2. So she would do something on a Monday, and it would be like Wednesday when her knee would start to feel okay again, that she could even do household related chores. So I was like, okay, well, that's not what we want. And so we want you to try and be as strong and resilient as possible before you go into surgery. And then we're going to start you off on the right foot as soon as surgery happens. So we did a little bit of manual therapy, and I got her on a strength training program that she could do at home. And she was faithful to that. And within a week, she was walking faster, she was walking more, and she wasn't having rebound pain when she was going around the grocery store. In a week. And so some people assume that when we have our older clients that they're not going to respond as quickly to therapy. And that can be true. We know that recovery is slower as we get older, especially as we pass the 5th decade of life, and that accelerates, and it takes you a little bit longer after 70. But this is somebody that I saw 3 times and saw a noticeable increase in function and quality of life. And one of the big, wins for me in terms of advocating for ourselves as geriatric physical therapists is that she had to go to her daughter and say, I should have come a year ago when this was starting to get really bad, and I knew that I was going to need surgery. And so her daughter got this beautiful I told you so moment, because she had been telling her, you should go see a physical therapist. And she thought she needed to wait for the medical system instead of going to Allied Health. And so that was a twofold win. One was that she was feeling better and strong. And she was like, how soon can I see you after surgery? I want to get back to walking a mile. And so she had this feeling of empowerment and confidence, not only in our relationship, but in her own ability to recover, which I think is even more important than believing in me. And her daughter and her got to have this this really fun kind of tete-a-tete where she was saying, Mom, I told you, like you need to go see an allied health professional. And so that was really a cool experience for me. And so the longer I'm in practice, the more I get to accumulate these positive wins where I can see that a properly dosed, a properly progressed exercise program can legitimately change a person's life. And I'm not saying that this can't happen across the lifespan, but when an older person is flirting with being independent versus not being independent, and you can push them into that independence threshold, like that they're not even close to losing that independence. You can increase that functional resiliency. That is so powerful because they gain so much. They get improved quality of life. They get longer and more years where they get to enjoy the time with their spouse and their family and their grandkids and their ability to navigate around the community. And if we take a moment to really reflect on that and the impact that we have and the role that we as physical therapists can play as a multidisciplinary team with an older client, it's just awesome. It's just awesome. And so I wanted to go on the podcast this Wednesday and talk about wins and talk about these positive experiences and these ways that we can positively influence our clients. And I want you guys to reflect today on some of those wins. And I would love if you commented below and gave your story or an example of a big win that you've had with an older client, even if that is just a little bit of a shift in terms of their movement. For some people, that may be that instead of staying in their house, they went out to their mailbox and came back. And they did that every day. Like, that's a huge win. Now they're going out into the community. And maybe eventually, if you keep pushing a little bit, they may decide that it's okay for them to go out a little bit further or go for a little bit of a longer walk or say hi to their neighbor that they haven't seen in 5 years because they've been too worried about having a fall to want to go outside and embarrass themselves if they were to slip and couldn't get up. Those are all really cool experiences. So have a very happy Wednesday. Think about those positive experiences, put them in the comments below. I would love to hear them all, and we can spread a little bit more sunshine today. Bye.
Hit me. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, go to ptonice.com, click on the courses tab, and check out Modern Management of the Older Adult. This is a course that myself and Christina Previtt are going to be teaching. It's 8 weeks, an online format, interactive, and solely focused on helping students change how they practice and how they work with older adults. For more information, just go to ptonice.com. Thanks.